the face of American pickers, and a man widely admired for his passion for forgotten treasures, has spent years charming audiences with his boundless enthusiasm, sharp eye for rare antiques, and deep appreciation for history. On screen, he appears as a light-hearted adventurer, traveling across America in search of dusty gems and hidden stories. But what many fans don't realize is that behind the warm smile and rugged exterior lies a much deeper, more complex story. Beneath the surface of fame and success, Mike's personal life has been marked by quiet heartbreak and emotional scars that never made it to air. While millions tuned in to see the thrill of the pick, few knew about the loss, betrayal, and sorrow he faced when the camera stopped rolling. From the pain of losing people closest to him, to the emotional toll of a crumbling marriage, Mike has endured trials that would have broken many. His journey is not just one of discovery through barns and backroads, it's a deeply human story of resilience in the face of life's most painful moments. What happened when the spotlight dimmed? What personal tragedies has he kept hidden behind that familiar grin? This is the side of Mike Wolfe you've never seen. The side forged not by fame, but by grief, endurance, and quiet strength. As we peel back the layers of this well-known TV personality, you'll find that the real treasures he's uncovered aren't antiques. They're the hard-earned lessons of a man who's had to pick up the pieces of his own life. So stick around, because what you're about to learn may forever change the way you see the man behind American Pickers. Mike Wolfe's early years were anything but easy, and they're a far cry from the success story we know today. Born in the gritty industrial town of Joliet, Illinois, Mike was raised in a working-class family that was constantly teetering on the edge of survival. Their home was small, money was tight, and even basic needs like food and clothing often felt uncertain. While most kids were thinking about toys or cartoons, Mike was quietly worrying about things like electricity bills and empty cupboards. But within that struggle, something unexpected began to take shape. His parents, despite their own hardships, taught him the importance of grit, hustle, and finding value in what others overlooked. Mike's father took on grueling jobs, and his mother stretched every dollar with a quiet kind of heroism. And while his childhood was full of uncertainty, it was also the backdrop for a growing obsession, one that would shape the rest of his life. Mike became fascinated with the forgotten. He found magic in rusted bikes, dusty records, and broken-down antiques. While other kids were playing video games, Mike was sneaking into old barns, digging through junkyards, and spending entire afternoons at flea markets. To most people, these places were piles of trash. To Mike, they were treasure troves of untold stories. He didn't know it at the time, but he was building something far more valuable than a collection. He was building a way out. His love for picking became more than just a quirky hobby. It was his escape hatch from a hard life, his way of creating beauty and meaning in a world that often felt cold and unforgiving. And here's where it gets really interesting. What started as a childhood obsession would eventually become a full-blown mission. A mission to preserve history, one dusty artifact at a time. But the road ahead wasn't smooth, and the challenges Mike faced after childhood would test him even more. So how did a kid rummaging through garage sales end up changing the way we see American history, and building a multi-million-dollar brand in the process? The answer lies in the next chapter of his story. Mike Wolfe's journey to fame wasn't the result of luck or a viral moment. It was the product of years of grit, relentless hustle, and a deep-rooted passion for forgotten history. Long before he became a familiar face on television, Mike was scouring junkyards and flea markets, chasing leads, and risking it all for hidden treasures most people would walk right past. His obsession with antiques wasn't just a quirky hobby, it was a mission to preserve the untold stories behind everyday objects. When American Pickers first aired in 2010, few could have predicted the cultural phenomenon it would become. The show's premise was simple but strangely addicting. Two men, Mike and his longtime friend Frank Fritz, traveling across America in search of dusty barns, cluttered garages, and long-forgotten attics, hoping to uncover something rare, valuable, or just plain interesting. But what truly pulled viewers in wasn't just the stuff they found, it was the soul behind the search. Every rusted sign, vintage motorcycle, and antique toy came with a backstory, and Mike had a way of bringing those stories to life. Audiences quickly fell in love with his natural charm, encyclopedic knowledge, and genuine respect for the people he met. Each episode became a blend of history, nostalgia, adventure, and human connection. It wasn't just a show about antiques, it was a celebration of America's forgotten past and the people who lived it. But while millions saw a man living his dream on screen, few knew the personal battles Mike was facing when the cameras stopped rolling. The weight of fame, the constant travel, the pressure to perform, all of it began to take a toll. Behind the scenes, he faced mounting personal challenges, the pain of private loss, strains within his family, and quiet struggles with health that few ever saw. Even as the spotlight grew brighter, Mike sometimes found himself wondering if the success was worth the cost. How do you stay grounded when the world sees you as a larger-than-life figure? And how do you keep going when the passion that once fueled you now feels like a burden? Mike Wolfe's rise wasn't just a story of fame. It was a story of resilience, vulnerability, and the hidden price of chasing your dream. And while American Pickers brought him into millions of homes, the real story, the one behind the fame, is far more complex and far more human than most people ever realized. In 2018, Mike Wolfe was struck by a devastating loss that would forever change him. His mother, a woman who had been a constant source of strength and support throughout his life, passed away after a long battle with illness. The grief that Mike felt was overwhelming. He had always been close to his mother, and her passing left a void that seemed impossible to fill. For years, Mike had worked tirelessly, building his career and achieving success, but in the face of this loss, all of his achievements felt insignificant. The pain of losing someone who had been such a foundational part of his life was something Mike struggled to process, especially in the public eye. Despite his efforts to remain strong, Mike's emotional state began to deteriorate. The grief affected every aspect of his life, from his relationships to his work. As much as he tried to push through, the weight of his mother's death lingered over him like a cloud. In interviews, he would speak about her with such affection and warmth. Yet it was clear that the loss had a profound impact on his spirit. For Mike, the passing of his mother was not just a personal loss. It was a reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the inevitability of loss. He had always been someone who valued family above all else, and to lose a key member of his family was a blow that took years to recover from. The tragedy of his mother's death would become a defining moment in Mike's life, and it would shape the way he approached both his personal and professional world moving forward. In addition to the devastating loss of his mother, Mike Wolfe faced another heartbreaking event that would shake him to his core: his divorce from his wife, Jody Faith, in 2020. Mike and Jody had been married for over a decade, and their relationship had once seemed unbreakable. They had built a family together, raising a daughter and navigating the ups and downs of life side by side. However, despite their long history together, their marriage began to unravel as the pressures of fame, personal loss, and professional struggles took their toll. The decision to divorce was a difficult one, but both Mike and Jody acknowledged that it was the best choice for their well-being. The end of their marriage marked the end of an era for Mike. His family dynamic was forever changed, and he found himself having to rebuild his life once again. While the divorce was amicable, it was still a painful process for both parties. The emotional weight of navigating the breakdown of a marriage, compounded by the other losses he had faced, left Mike feeling like a shadow of the man he once was. For someone who had spent so much of his life focusing on the things that mattered most, family, work, and legacy, the dissolution of his marriage was yet another reminder that life's greatest blessings can sometimes be the very things we lose. Mike's heartbreak was felt not just in the loss of a marriage, but in the toll it took on his sense of self. Divorce, while a common experience, was something Mike never expected to face, and it left him reeling, trying to figure out what came next for him and his family. The emotional and psychological toll of losing his mother, going through a divorce, and facing mounting pressure from his public life began to manifest physically in Mike Wolfe's health. Known for his energetic and enthusiastic personality on screen, Mike seemed to have it all together. But behind closed doors, the stress was taking its toll. Reports began to surface about Mike's fatigue, exhaustion, and overall decline in health. His once vibrant demeanor was replaced by a more withdrawn and weary presence. The long hours of filming, combined with personal grief and emotional turmoil, left Mike physically drained. As much as he tried to push through, it became clear that he was not invincible. The stress had accumulated over the years, and it was starting to affect his health in ways he couldn't ignore. Mike's health struggles were a stark contrast to the image he had cultivated for himself on television. He had always been the one to keep going, no matter the challenges, but the weight of the world had finally caught up to him. His physical health became a constant reminder of how much he had sacrificed in pursuit of his career and personal life. Despite his efforts to maintain a positive image, Mike's internal struggles were starting to show. The man who had once traveled the country picking antiques and meeting strangers, now had to confront the reality of his own limitations. It was a painful realization that, despite his best efforts, he couldn't keep going at the pace he had once set. Living in the public eye brings with it a unique set of challenges that many people can't fully understand. For Mike Wolfe, being on American Pickers meant constant scrutiny and judgment, both from fans and critics alike. While he enjoyed a large fan following, he also faced the harsh reality of being a public figure. Every decision, every move, was under the microscope. From the clothes he wore to the way he spoke on camera, Mike had to constantly maintain an image that was in line with the expectations of his fans and the producers of the show. But this public persona came at a cost. As his personal life began to unravel, Mike found himself struggling with the pressure to always appear happy and successful. The loss of his mother and his divorce were things he couldn't hide from the public eye. Fans noticed the changes in his behavior and appearance, and while some were sympathetic, others were quick to judge. The emotional toll of constantly being under scrutiny took its toll on Mike's mental health. The pressure to maintain a perfect image while dealing with personal struggles was something that even the strongest individuals find difficult to bear. It was a constant balancing act, and eventually the weight of it all became overwhelming. For Mike, the public's perception of him began to feel like a prison, one that limited his ability to grieve, heal, and move forward. In the wake of his personal struggles, Mike Wolfe's friendships and professional partnerships also began to feel the strain. One of the most significant relationships in Mike's life was with his longtime friend and American Pickers co-host, Frank Fritz. The two had built their careers together, and their bond was a central part of the show's success. However, in 2020, Frank left American Pickers, citing personal reasons, and this departure marked the beginning of a shift in Mike's life. The loss of Frank's presence on the show was a blow to Mike, both professionally and emotionally. The two had been through so much together, and their friendship was a cornerstone of the series. With Frank's exit, Mike found himself navigating a new phase in his career, one where he had to carry the weight of the show on his own. While the departure was amicable, it added to the emotional challenges Mike was already facing. The strain on their relationship was just another reminder that even the closest friendships can fray under pressure. The absence of Frank was felt not just by Mike, but by fans as well, who had come to love the dynamic between the two. Mike's journey on American Pickers was now marked by a sense of loss, not just in terms of the valuable antiques he uncovered, but in terms of the people who had been there with him every step of the way. Despite the overwhelming challenges he faced, Mike Wolfe began to find ways to cope with the tragedies and emotional turmoil that had defined his recent years. While the loss of his mother, his divorce, and the departure of his co-host were difficult to endure, Mike's resilience started to shine through. He turned to therapy and other forms of emotional support to help him navigate his grief. Through this process, Mike began to focus more on his mental health, something he had neglected during his rise to fame. He also started using his platform to speak about the importance of mental health and the need for people to seek help when dealing with personal struggles. For Mike, acknowledging his pain and seeking professional help was a pivotal step in his journey toward healing. It wasn't an easy process, but over time he began to find peace. Slowly, Mike returned to American Pickers, but this time with a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't just searching for antiques, he was searching for something more meaningful, healing and redemption. His story became one of growth and self-awareness, showing his fans that even those who seem to have it all can face immense hardship. Through it all, Mike found strength not in his achievements, but in his ability to cope with life's difficulties and continue moving forward. Mike Wolfe's story is one of immense tragedy, but also one of incredible resilience. From the loss of his mother to the breakdown of his marriage, Mike's life has been marked by heartache and pain. Yet, through every obstacle, he has managed to persevere, demonstrating that true strength is not measured by fame or success, but by one's ability to rise after falling. Mike's journey serves as a powerful reminder that everyone faces challenges, regardless of their public persona. Behind the camera, Mike Wolfe is a man who has experienced more than his fair share of tragedy, but he has also shown remarkable courage in the face of it. His story is one of growth, self-discovery, and the unyielding pursuit of healing, proving that even the darkest moments can lead to a brighter future. The heartbreak and triumph of Mike Wolfe's life are a testament to the strength of the human spirit and a reminder that even in the most trying times, we have the power to overcome. Mike's journey is not just one of loss, but one of hope and redemption. Through it all, he has proven that even in the face of tragedy, there is always a path forward.